because I've been gone for a little while, but I'm back and I'm hungry to give them everything they need in the world of sports. Go ahead, guy. Did the Lions do enough? Jimmy? Jack?
I'm not sure if you can say that the Lions did enough since they didn't really do anything at the deadline, but I mean there are definitely parts of the fan base that would say um they didn't need to do a whole lot. I mean, obviously the injuries in the secondary are concerning, but with the improved play of the D line, with the emergence of Muhammad, I think that the need for an edge was kind of blunted. You know, the Lions are pretty set on offense, weapon wise. It's tough to get impact O linemen. We did see a couple teams make trades for O linemen, but you know, I think there is a piece of the fan base that will say that upgrades could have or should have been made. But I think they were fine to stand pretty much pat at the deadline.
Angry, man.
Yeah, I know they signed 3 practice players, offensive line. I think that will pay dividends in the end. I don't really know where you would have gone. You know, you weren't going to make New York splash by signing some guy for 2 first-round picks, and there wasn't really anybody out there that wooed me that they should go get. So we're going to have to see.
Well, let me tell you, the fan base, from what I've been picking up on social media and that, is angry. They think that they've got another Tigers type manager or general manager that won't move at the deadline to make the team better. That they think the team has some serious depth issues on the offensive line, defensive backfield, and they wanted change. And they said if you didn't take risks now, then it's going to lead to another year devoid of a Super Bowl. I don't agree with that. I'm more along the lines with you that you don't move to just move, you move to improve. And they didn't have anything out there that they wanted. But hey, man, this guy, if they don't make the playoffs or have a winning season, win the division, I think the fans are going to turn on him, on the general manager.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it was that dire. I mean, I could see, but I don't think the NFL is like baseball or basketball where you can plug a guy in and they have an immediate impact. I mean, there are certain guys that can have that type of impact. But you know, those don't often get traded. I don't think any of the moves were like game changing. I think the Colts getting Sauce Gardner is a statement of intent. I don't think Sauce is as great as he is as advertised to be, but I do think that it's at least a statement of intent and they're going for it. And I appreciate when teams go for it. I think Quinnen Williams going to the Cowboys, I mean, it's a big name moving, but I mean, the Cowboys aren't doing anything, this season. So, that kind of doesn't really do much. I mean, it's not like they're going to catch the Eagles, in the division. So yeah, I mean, there were definitely some moves to be made, but I feel like that, you know, that was just Jerry trading because he needed to be included. I don't think the calculus of, especially the NFC, has changed too much. I think the Lions are still the class of the NFC. So I can understand where people are coming from. You know, you see all these big names being moved, but I don't think they had to.
I think the Tigers, on the other hand, they needed to do something and didn't. The Lions, I don't think they need to do anything.
Well, we'll see because that offensive line is old, hurt, and that's where they get their keys. So it's not as good as it was last year, and people thought they could shore it up by going out and getting at least a backup. But you know, hey, we'll see. I think he's right. I think you guys are both right in that we should have stood pat. I think we've got enough talent. Just keep them healthy. I hope they stay healthy, and let's go out here and call some good games offensively, and we should be all right. That brings us to a point. Are the Lions where they should be? Do you think they're okay? They are not. Their offense, although they've got great positions and everybody thought they would be better, they're like 22nd in third down conversions. That's a problem, guys. That's not what they've been the last 2 years. Is it all due to the offensive line? Is it due to the play calling? We just don't know each other yet. Everybody's not working on all cylinders. They showed a I was watching a clip where they show that Gibbs can't block, and that was allowing pressure to get on the quarterback. This play calling may not be the same. The structure of the offense may be the same, but there's some nuances that have changed that may not make them as efficient and productive. Where are you guys at on this so far?
I'll defer to you because, it matters slightly less to me.
Well, I think Gibbs, that was one play. He got bum rushed. But, usually he does a decent job of blocking. Even though he's a smaller individual, he will get in there and at least keep the guy off of the quarterback. Now, I think that with anything, with Morton being new, he's learning when and how to use his players. Because they used Jameson a lot better in the game against Minnesota. And Laporta had 97 yards, and St. Brown had 97. So they were doing a good job. They just didn't get it done.
And is that what we're going to see now, that they've been almost a pedestrian offense? But they only lost by 3 to Minnesota, and people act like they were blown out. It was only by 3, but I never saw them in the game. I wasn't here Monday to have the conversation about the game, but I never saw them really with that energetic, emotional high that Campbell usually has them on, especially at home.
I mean, to be fair, there probably was a little bit of they don't think, disrespecting JJ and thinking they could roll in there and get a W without having to do a whole lot. I mean, any given Sunday obviously applies in the NFL, and you should never be on your heels like that. But I have to admit that that's human, and that's something that possibly played a role in it. But, at the same time, I think, it's hard to get up for every single game, every single week. It's a long, painful season. Like I said on Monday, I don't truly think it's a statement game or a narrative game. I think this was simply a late October loss that happens in the middle of a long season. It's something that you don't want to continue, but I think it's more of a burn the tape and let's get out of here and focused on the next opponent going forward.
This week they're playing against the Commanders, a dream killer for them last year. As you know, we thought we were going to the Super Bowl, playing in the first playoff game. They got to bye the first week, and then they're playing in the second, and then Washington comes in and just massacres them. Do you think that we're going to have some kind of retaliation going on, or do you think they'll come out flat like they were? I just hope they come out and bulldoze this team.
Well, I want to say this about the game on Sunday. We had beaten Minnesota 5 straight times, and all of those games were close. You've got a top-notch coordinator in KLC, and you got a top-notch defensive coordinator in Brian Flores. And I think, the number was just up. And I think next time we play them, we're going to get them.
The next 8 games, they can only lose 2 more games. 8. It's really 9 more games. They can only lose
9.
They can only
7-2 the rest of the way.
7-2 the rest of the way. You think that, Jack? That's what I said at the beginning of the year.
No, but I also don't think should is the vernacular you should be using. Whether they meet your preseason prediction is kind of irrelevant. Do they make the playoffs or not should be what your basis of success or failure. If they don't make the playoff, I mean, they could go 12-5 and miss the playoffs conceivably. I don't think mathematically it's in play this year, but based on the division and how many playoff teams there are nowadays, conceivably they could lose 5 games to miss the playoffs. What I think Lions fans need to shift their thinking from the previous, I hope we win a certain amount of games in the regular season, to let's just get to the playoffs healthy and figure it out from there.
Well, part of that is I agree with you 90%. But when I pick a team to win so many games, I'm also considering that do they get a bye? Do they win the division? What's going to be best for them to make a playoff run? And the more and that's why I say 12-5, because I think it gives them the division win, and it also gives them some rest during the playoffs and the conference.
There's only one. Only the top seed gets a bye week, and I think the top seed every year since we've expanded the playoffs has won at least 13 games. So 12 still wouldn't be enough to get them any rest in the playoffs. It would get them home games, a home game to start, but yeah, I mean, we need a little bit more.
Yeah, that's the only reason I try to pick a win-loss record is because of what they're going to get. Yes, sir. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to time for a break, so we'll be right back.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Detroit Bullseye Sports. Dabo presents Detroit Bullseye Sports here on 107.5 HD2 WGPR. I'm Jack Barthwell with Mark Jones and Jimmy Wardell this evening. We're talking a little bit about the Lions. Trade deadline just passed, but we wanted to get into the meat of the entire NFL, see if we have winners, losers, things to take away from the trade deadline and how it reshapes the season going forward. I know we touched on it a little bit before we went into break, but just to recap a couple of the bigger deals, Sauce Gardner, a Detroit native, a cornerback for the Jets, was traded to the Indianapolis Colts for wide receiver A.D. Mitchell and 2 first-rounders. We also had the Jets trade defensive tackle Quentin Williams to the Cowboys for Michigan alum Mozzie Smith, as well as another first-rounder.
And a second.
Jets had also traded their other star corner last week. We've also got Jacoby Myers was finally traded from the Raiders, except I'm not sure he's going to get what he really wanted, which is a better situation in Jacksonville. But he's definitely on the move. Saints traded wide receiver Rashid Shaheed to the Seahawks for a 4th and a 5th. Rashid Shaheed, I think, is a big play wide receiver. I think adds an option on the outside for Sam Darnold in Seattle opposite Jackson Smith and Jigba. But yeah, I mean, I think those were the biggest moves. I think the biggest non-move, you could argue the Lions not making a move. You could argue the Chiefs not making a move. Jimmy, what are your thoughts on the 2025?
Well, I thought one big winner is the Indianapolis Colts. Now, how they use Sauce Gardner is going to be interesting because he's usually a follow your man right up on him. And this week they play, who do they play?
Colts got to go to Germany. I'm not sure Sauce actually even suits up this week.
They play Minnesota?
They play Atlanta.
Yeah, they want to line him up with Drake London.
Well, I don't know.
And Drake plays the slot a lot.
Because, he's coming out of concussion protocol, too. Plus, he just got there. They got to fly to Germany, and they have a bye week the week after. I don't even know if Sauce is going to play this week.
That's true. Did he play Sunday?
No, he was out. Or he sustained the concussion in the game. Yeah.
Will they let him fly with coming out of protocol?
Well, that's a good question, too, Mark. I'm not even sure if he's allowed to fly. Now, they may bring him over like later in the week. They may bring him over Friday or Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
To give him a chance to clear, and so he can be with his new teammates and get a feel for the team. But
that's a long flight.
That's a very long flight, especially when you got a headache. So I don't know. I would leave him back home and get to the bye week and have him get acclimated then. But I still think it's a move and it's a statement of intent. But I do think they brought him in now knowing they get an extra bye week. Well, Sauce will get an extra bye week. The Jets have already had their bye week.
They are better. I think the Colts made their defense better by getting Sauce. He went to King High School in Cincinnati University, one of our Detroit's own. So I root for him all the time. And the Colts are playing well this season, better than I expected. So we'll see what that does for them. They may be the Super Bowl team. They may surprise people and make it to the Super Bowl. You say they're young? Maybe so. So we'll see.
I think that's why they made that move.
Yeah,
but
I think it's short. I think
what do you guys
shore up a spot for that? Their Charvarius Ward is out, so they don't necessarily have a CP2 right now. So, but if Sauce can play better, he's not been having the absolute greatest season of his career. But if he can step his game up a little bit, being in a better situation, I think it definitely raises the level of the Colts defense.
I think that playing in a situation where you're going to lose or always losing, in football is a game of emotion. It's hard to get yourself up that way.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So I think he'll be better someplace else that is trying to win.
Jimmy, what do you think, and Mark, but what do you guys think of the Cowboys deal for Quentin Williams? I know we touched on it a little bit before the break, but I mean, I think them acquiring Quentin Williams is an upgrade on Mozzie Smith. And, I think their interior pass rush is helped by this, but I mean, they still can't stop the run. Quentin is not the absolute greatest run stopper. He hasn't been getting to the quarterback as well as he has the past couple years. So is this just more so Jerry feeling like he needed to make a move, another move to maybe forget about Micah? Or do you think he genuinely thinks this helps the team?
Well, I want to ask Mark a question. Are you looking for your cowboy hat? You ready to jump back on the bandwagon? I think
Hey,
Jerry
you
just
gonna
made
let
this
me?
move being Jerry.
You gotta let me answer that. You can't put stuff out of me in the street like that. And I've
You
been a
got the
cowboy.
floor, boss.
I've been a Cowboy fan ever since Bullet Bob Hayes. Nothing's changed. I watched him with Tony Dorsett, Smith, all the way through. I know they've been losing for the last 20 years or not has been as good, but I'm always got a Cowboy in my heart. Now that doesn't say they're as good as the Lions, but yeah, they're going to be better. Maybe not this year, but next year because they're filling a gap, and you got to like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jerry was really just like trying to be in the news. But Jimmy, do you think it actually helps the defense, or is this just a move to make a move?
Where was their main problem on defense after they traded to Green Bay? The player.
Pass rush.
Is Quinn Williams going to help on the pass rush?
Sensibly, yeah. His advanced stats are a little bit down this year, but yeah, you would like to think he can.
I don't know. I think that they need another. The player they traded was generational. Quinn Williams is good, but he was generational.
Yeah, I think they're trying to do the Billy Bean and replace him in the aggregate, and I just don't know if they've got enough pieces to have done so. And again, I don't love the idea of giving up a player and a draft pick and you're under 500. I'm not really sure or right at 500. I'm not sure what they think this is going to do for their playoff chances. Maybe it's a look for the
2 draft picks.
Yeah, I just think that's a really high price to pay for marginal impact, not no impact. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say Quinn was not a good get. He's a good player. But I do think it's just going to be marginal impact, and marginal impact, even more marginal impact on the season.
Williams is about 29 too, isn't he? You know, I liked him with the Jets, but I don't know that he's going to be a fit with the Cowboys.
I do think the biggest winner of the trade deadline are the Jets.
Yes.
Jets in 26 and probably even more so in 27. Now, obviously, this is contingent on the GM and the coach being given enough time to have it come to fruition. But, I mean, the Jets have 3 firsts next year and 3 firsts in 27, as well as, I'm sorry, they have 2 firsts in 26 and 3 in 27, as well as 3 seconds in 26. I mean, they could dramatically reshape their football team and be set up for the future going forward with just one draft. If you were a Jet fan, would you be okay sacrificing this team? Is there enough of a core left to make a run in the next couple of years?
I think so.
I think they've depleted their team, and I think the core is gone, and they're going to be in a rebuilding phase for a while. But they weren't going anywhere anyway, so it gives me some hope that if they make the right decision, then they'll be better off in the long run. But it's going to be a while, guys.
Still got your 2 running backs. You've got Garrett Wilson. I think it bought the coach 2 years.
Yep, I do. I agree with that.
When they get finished drafting these players, I think they still need a quarterback. And what they now have the option of doing is going up in case the Titans lose more games than they do and getting a quarterback that they want.
Do you see a franchise quarterback in this draft worth trading up for?
I don't know. All the quarterbacks that they had listed before the season are not in that group. I don't know. We had to let it play out.
If you're the Jets, do you want Dante Moore as your quarterback of the future? I'd be fine with that. Do the Jets think he can handle New York? Is it Joey Aguilar from Tennessee? Is it Fernando Mendoza from Indiana? I don't know. None of these guys have enough of a track record to make me think that, they're worth blowing up the draft for.
And playing in New York is something all of its own. They might be good someplace else and be stars, but if they go into New York with questioning themselves or the fans questioning them, they could be run out of town and ruin their careers. because just of that much pressure on them from the New York fan base.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a situation where they have to be the right organizational fit, the right, mental fit. And I think that we've seen that this year, how important that is for quarterbacks to have their situation right. But when we get back from a break, we will talk a little bit more Detroit sports. We'll talk a little bit NBA, college football, the whole deal on 107.5. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. Dabo presents Detroit Bullseye Sports on 107.5 HD2 WGPR Sports Rap Network. You can catch us on the Sports Rap app as well as sportsrapnet.com. We are back. We want to talk a little bit about college football. The college football playoff rankings were released yesterday. We have our first look at how the committee sees the season so far. The committee also came out and said explicitly that the eye test will be one of the more important factors that they look at this season, basically how everybody looks against everybody else. So that means if your quarterback gets hurt late in the season, that will hurt your case. If you played somebody and they end up looking terrible later, that is going to hurt your case. No real massive surprises in the rankings. I think you can quibble about a little bit of the positioning. I think Notre Dame fans will be really happy, and Texas and Oklahoma fans may be a little bit perturbed. Also, the top of the ACC might be a little bit perturbed, but that will work itself out by the end of the season. Michigan Wolverines come in ranked 20. But that really doesn't matter where they're ranked. Michigan's goals are all right in front of them. If they win out, they're in the playoffs. If not, they're in some other bowl game. Jimmy, Mark, what do you guys think about the first release of the college football playoff rankings? Any surprises? And what are you looking forward to seeing going forward this season?
I would say my surprise is that Indiana is still there. Maybe a lot of people aren't surprised, but I've been watching football for 50, 60 years. In Indiana, for the first time, it's a basketball school, and they've got some say the best team in the country. I'm still surprised. I know they were good last year, but I'm still surprised by what they're doing all season long. They have a nice schedule to help themselves get to the playoffs.
Where are they going? I mean, they're 9-0.
They're going to win.
Looking fairly good. They don't play anybody the rest of the year. It'd probably be them and Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. Now, some have said that Texas A&M might be a better team than both of them. But once you get through the rigors of the Big Ten and the SEC, you'll be able to see who's top dog.
Ohio State looks really good to me. They're going to be tough. I don't care what conference, where they're coming from. I think they right now to me are the best.
I mean, I think that Indiana has earned the right to be where they are. I mean, the win against Oregon was a big win, and it wasn't like they kind of squeaked it out. I mean, they were in charge of that game the whole way. Ohio State hasn't really played anybody for you to say that they're, whether or not they're good or bad. I mean, they played Texas, obviously week one, but true freshman quarterback on the road, first start. Well, not true freshman, but, Arch Manning, who only had thrown a few passes in his career up to that point, first start on the road, was never going to be the best barometer of how good that team is. They've certainly been throttling their Big Ten opponents, but once Penn State exposed themselves as frauds, this has become a one-game season for Ohio State, and that's only because of last year and what happened in the game. Thanksgiving weekend. So, I mean, on paper and the way they've been playing, Ohio State is probably the best team in the country. Have they exercised their demons against Michigan? I think is the question on everybody's mind. There's nothing that we're going to find out until that game that can answer that. I think that, I wish Indiana and Ohio State played. Obviously, we're not going to get that matchup until possibly the Big Ten championship game. But, Jimmy, I do think there's something to people saying Texas A&M is better. I mean, they have played some, great teams being in the SEC. They went up to Notre Dame and got a win. I don't think the committee has enough information to say these rankings are wrong. These feel like this should be the first time we should be talking about rankings at all this season, especially with the way the season started. You don't know who's going to be any good, especially with the transfer portal now and the unlimited movement of players. You have no idea what teams are going to be any good at the beginning of the year. So I think the committee got it right based on what we know now, but this is really just the beginning, I think, for college football season.
Well, a lot of these conference championships will be a truer determination of who's a good team. But I just see one thing is just the ACC is not very strong this year.
The ACC?
And I don't know. The ACC.
I don't know. I mean, I'm going to basically count Notre Dame, not Notre Dame, but Virginia's 8-1. Louisville's 7-1. Georgia Tech is 8-1. I think Miami is fraudulent, obviously, but I don't know if they're super weak. I think they're about as top heavy as the Big Ten is. I don't think the Big Ten's been truly covering themselves in glory this year. They've got 3 teams in the playoff race, but then you don't have another Big Ten team until Iowa and Michigan bringing up the 20s. USC, I forgot. Yeah, that still doesn't make sense to me. So,
little history.
And Washington is there, too.
And Washington's in there, too.
Jim, little history going back many, many years to the 70s. If you recall, Jack, you weren't born yet. It may not even thought of.
I was not thought of.
That's right. But it was 71 or 73, Jim. Ohio State and Michigan were playing for the Roses, the Big Ten championship. And Dennis Franklin was the quarterback for Michigan. He breaks his collarbone. They finished the game tied. Michigan should have gone. They held a vote. Michigan State voted against us. And because Michigan's quarterback was hurt, they sent Ohio State to the Rose Bowl and not Michigan. And we've had a vendetta against Ohio
and
ever since.
That was back when only one team went to a bowl game.
One team, yeah. So we were held out of that.
One team.
I mean, Bo probably would have lost the bowl game anyway.
But it was one of his best teams.
Probably.
Man, we were all sick. Was it 71 or 73? Can you remember?
I honestly can't remember.
Isn't that the last year of the 10-year war?
No, the 10-year war went through the 70s.
Okay.
76 to 86 or something like that.
Gotcha.
No, 69 to.
Woody got fired. It ended.
Yeah, he got fired in 79.
After he punched a kid.
Yeah, they beat, just to give you the Michigan wasn't supposed to win. They said Ohio State was the best team. Could have beat in 69. Could have beat a pro team. Michigan goes in for Bo's first year and upsets them, and then the war was on until 79.
Just like last year.
Well, let me ask you guys this: how do you guys feel about not a power 4, but a next 4 getting in?
A G6.
Because Memphis is way down at 22nd.
Do they still have the rule that the highest ranked G6 has to get in?
I think so.
Yeah, I haven't heard them change it.
Yeah, if it's like you said, if it's Memphis, which I'm looking at a bracket projection, that's probably who it's going to be. The G6 hasn't had a ton of like breakouts this year, although North Texas, Frisky, I think we were expecting one of the service academies to be better this year than they were as well. But I think that I don't know. I think that they got it right, but I also think that we have the opportunity to see it play itself out this year. And play, we're still not. We still got to look at. San Diego State, I think, is 7-1. Before I go on from that, we're really sure that Jaden Denegal couldn't play quarterback for the Michigan Wolverines last year? Because he got San Diego State to, 7-1.
Different league.
That's fine, but he's obviously better at quarterback than Davis Warren or Jack Tuttle or Alex Orji were. I love Sharon. I'm willing to give him benefit of doubt. That gives me a tiny bit of pause that they wouldn't even give my guy a shot. And now he's, fringe playoff, but in the playoff discussion, period. Also, want to give a shout out to Kirk Cignetti. Kirk Cignetti essentially has 2 teams in the top 30 of the AP poll because that James Madison program is still operating in his his image, and they'd be ranked 27 if the AP poll went all the way. I don't know, man. I think the talent level is quickly getting compressed in college football, and I think that your traditional powers are going to have trouble hanging on to the same level of dominance that they've had in the past, and we're going to see a lot more upstart teams. And we're going to see, I think we are done with the dominance of like truly undefeated teams all the way through the season once we get through this last cycle of Ohio State.
Is that what you're saying? That's going to create more parity?
Yeah, I mean, I think just not even the fact that you can't buy everybody anymore, mainly because the price has gone up. I think you're going to see more kids want to either stay home or forge their own path or try something new or, heck, wear jerseys they wouldn't have normally worn before just because they have that option. Kids are still kids. But I do think we're going to see, with Texas Tech throwing all this money around, they're about to be a new power. BYU throwing all this money around, they're going to continue being a power. We're seeing teams like Sacramento State that are trying to jump into FBS and throw a lot of money around. So I think it's going to be really interesting.
And, gone are the days where you could keep 115 players under scholarship. A lot of players are seeing their options, and if I'm not playing, I'm going on to the next one.
Yeah, go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are back here on Detroit. Davo presents Detroit Bullseye Sports. I'm Jack Barthol here with Jimmy Wardell. Mark is away for a minute, but we wanted to talk to you about the start of college basketball season. We have reached November, so we have reached the beginning of another sports season. Here at the tail end of the calendar, college basketball officially tipped off with games that counted earlier in the week. Our hometown Michigan Wolverines took on local foe Oakland. On Monday, Michigan won a resounding 121-78. Scored 69 points in the first half for a school record for one half of basketball. Pretty much everybody that was expected to be a contributor was able to see the floor. Talented freshman Trey McKinney came off the bench to score 21 points, hit 6 threes. But I think the real story may have been Morris Johnson Jr., who spent a lot of time playing with Team USA this offseason. I think everybody knew he would be a kind of defensive force, be a dunker, but I'm not sure anybody could see the agility, the spin moves, the ball handling. He even took a couple of threes, didn't make either of them, but the stroke looked good. He looked confident taking shots. The other 7-foot addition, 7'3" addition, Ade Mara, had a double-double, 12 and 12, also had 5 blocks, looked good in playing 20 minutes. So the Wolverines are off to a very impressive start. But I also want to shout out the Michigan State Spartans. Also took the court, did not score as many points, still had a good win against Colgate. Jimmy, what are your thoughts on this upcoming college basketball season? What do you see from Michigan, and what do you think their ceiling is?
Listen, if Jim, let me make this comment to you guys. This is Mark. I want to interrupt Jim. Sorry about that, but I will tell you this: this is the best Michigan team that I've seen in a long time. They scored over 15 points the other day. I know it's against Oakland University. I know that's what somebody would say, but they're loaded, guys, in every position. They've got a big fella in the middle. They can shoot. Their shooting percentages are already better than they were last year from 3-point line. They're big. They can match up well, play good defense, run the court. This is going to be one of the best seasons Michigan's had in a long time. I picked them to win the national championship. Now you're going to say, what, Mark? Yeah, I picked them to win the whole thing, the Big Ten and the tournament, because they're that deep and that ready. The whole Big Ten is going to have about 6 teams. I know there's 20 teams in the Big Ten, or 18 teams in the Big Ten now, but that Big Ten is going to have 6 elite teams, and Michigan's going to be the best of all of them. I can't wait till the basketball season starts in earnest. It's going to be a great NCAA basketball season. And yes, I'll just be, I know we're going to get to this topic, but since we're talking about it and we can go over a little bit more in depthly, I am glad they're going to allow some of these ball players that left early to come back and finish their seasons, because they can go back and make money. To just put them on the street, that ruined a lot of lives, and they get a second chance. I'm all about second chance to help the kids, and it's going to change things. But I'm glad they're doing it. Go Wolverines! And Michigan State is not going to be bad either. So we're going to have a good state this year of basketball, and I'm excited about it. And we're going to have fun on this show talking about who's the best and how did Michigan State do. The rivalry in basketball is much closer than it is in football, and it always has been. And it's going to be some good time. There you go.
Yeah, Mark, I do think that this is shaping up to be has potential to be one of the best Michigan basketball seasons in a long time. I think the addition of all the transfers, I didn't even in the intro get to Elliot Cadeau, who is the new starting point guard, came in and dropped quick 5 points, but also had 12 assists to lead the way. Only had the one turnover, did not seem to be plagued by the same issues he had been at North Carolina last year. Axel Lendenborg came off the bench, transferred from UAB, who Michigan was able to entice to stay one more year in school as opposed to being a late first-round draft pick. Hurt his hand in practice, so came off the bench, still had had a really efficient 12 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists. Didn't miss a shot. So, obviously it's Oakland. Obviously it's one game. I'm not going to take too much into the percentages and all that yet. Michigan does have a good test against Wake Forest coming up next week, hoping to avenge a loss that they suffered early in the season last year that led to, personally, me having a bit of consternation about the turnovers in the defense. But as Marcus alluded to, hopefully that allows them they have turned the page on that issue with the offense.
Yeah, and Jack, the Big Ten is loaded. You got Wisconsin, Michigan State, Illinois. Purdue is sitting at number 1 preseason. They're loaded in this conference, man. They're loaded, and I like to see it that way. That's one thing and you got, you're just going to have a great basketball season this year if you're a Big Ten fan. UCLA is sitting at number 12.
Mm-hmm.
Can't believe that I'm saying UCLA is in the Big Ten, but they are. All that history they bring with basketball, it's in the Big Ten, and that makes it even better, man. This is going to be one heck of a season. Strap on, get ready, and get ready for the ride.
Jimmy, I think we're back after our technical issues. What say you about Michigan basketball this year?
Can you hear me?
I sure can.
Yes.
Loud and clear.
Well, before I was cut off by Mr. Jones, I was talking about Yatsel Lutzberg, who looks like he's going to be a lottery pick.
That's right.
Then you've got Mortez Johnson, who I liked at Illinois. I don't know why he left Illinois, but I'm glad he's in Michigan because it looks like Illinois will be a team full of foreigners. And they look like they have depth. Just hope the shooting stay on par with what it was these last couple of games. And they can do very well.
And another team I forgot, guys, just to interrupt for a second, Jimmy, is Washington. They're good too. Oh, Big Ten.
Yeah, I think we saw obviously the perfect idea of what a Michigan game will look like this year, with the exception of, I think, Gaxel starting in place of Roddy Gale. And at some point, Trey McKinney is going to work himself, I think, into the starting lineup. But, I think, Jimmy, to your point about Mortez Johnson, he indicated that, he was intrigued by Michigan because of what they allow their bigs to do with the ball in their hand. And, it seems just based on game one, official game one, that any promises made to him were kept. He was the leading scorer on the team by far, had 24 points, had the most shot attempts on the team, took 12 shots, only turned the ball over once. And like I said, looked good with the ball in his hand, was able to push it up the floor a little bit. Obviously had the dunks, but was able to show a little touch, a little spin move. But Dusty did say that playing for USA basketball was the best thing that could have happened for his development. He said and this is according to Morez himself, he just was able to lock in and be coached by the best and be pushed playing with the best. So, this is probably the most talented Michigan team I've seen in, the modern era of watching them. this
What do you
is,
consider? What do you consider the modern era?
I mean, for me, it's after L or B. So anything amateur on.
So you don't consider the fact you didn't see the Fab
I
Five.
just didn't see. Yeah, I was 3 years old the last year of the Fab Five. So yeah, it's just obviously they were great, but just before my time, truly like watching the game and consuming it. But I mean, this is on par with friend of the program Jordan Morgan and those Trey Burke teams. I think this team is better than that team even.
Yeah, when Michigan was a hotbed before you were even again, they used to have some teams, man. They used to have Antoine Joe Bear's team that was
Mm-hmm.
there before that.
Mm-hmm.
They then they only lost 2 games in '76 to Indiana, and then they lost the championship. I have seen Michigan, although they're said to be a football school, their basketball has been great, but you took a little 10-year dip with basketball, but for many years, especially when we were loaded in
Mm-hmm.
the state with talent.
Oh,
State was okay, but Jack, I just had to give you a little bit of
Sure,
history.
sure.
okay. Thank you for that bit of history. But I want to ask this question because in the land of NIL, you always have coaches on the hot seat. We've had 13 coaches fired in football. What coach is on the hot seat in basketball?
Well, I would have told you Bruce Pearl, but Bruce got up out to go be on TV. I will say Rick Barnes, because Rick Barnes kind of lives his life on the hot seat. Rick Barnes is the head coach of Tennessee. He loves coaching a team in orange with a T logo and underachieving with them. So I'll say he's always on the list.
Are Kentucky coaches always on the hot seat?
I would have to think so. I would think the Kentucky and Louisville coaches are always on the hot seat because of where they're located and the traditions they have. And I will also throw out one much closer home in the Big Ten. I don't know how Mike Woodson's seat isn't completely engulfed in flames, but yeah, I think they are just a little upset that they didn't fire him and offer Dusty May whatever he wanted to come home to Indiana.
Hey, I think that the Kirk Signetti has put a couple of hand warmers in Mike Woodson's seat.
Yeah, exactly. Not doing him any favors at all.
That's a basketball school doing good. That's a tough place to coach too, and that guy Dusty May knew that. That's a tough place. You got to follow Bobby Knight, even though it's been years now. You're still following that ghost, man. Presented by Dabo. Go ahead, guys. The Pistons, the G League players are going to be allowed to come back and play in the league to use up their eligibility. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Is that a good or a bad thing? Tell me what the rule is so that we can be a little bit more exact about what this new development is in basketball.
Yeah, so the issue is it's not really well written or defined. The general idea of the rule is players that played for the NBA's G League Ignite program and or players that played in overseas professional leagues retain or are allowed to retain their NCAA eligibility. In this case, I think the narrative around it and the talk around it is bigger than the actual issue is going to be. I know we have a local connection to this issue because our local angry elf, Tom Izzo, gotten his feelings about players being allowed to come back from, Ignite. I think it's truly much ado about nothing because the G League Ignite program doesn't exist anymore. There aren't very many players left in the pipeline that either aren't pro somewhere, be it the NBA or overseas. So I kind of think that part of it is not really an issue going forward, or it won't be an issue going forward. And I mean, to be fair, we've had guys coming over from overseas for years anyway without this kind of ruling. I mean, Michigan has benefited from at least two that I can think of. Iggy Berdakis and Franz Wagner were both pros before they got to Michigan. So I really think it's just Tom Izzo complaining to complain, as he usually does, about recruiting. Once Tom had to actually compete with everybody else on an even playing field, kind of like Nick Saban, he turned into the complainer in chief about recruiting. But I think it's much ado about nothing, to be honest.
Yeah.
But wait a minute now. When he started complaining, and I think he threw this out in jest, but he said I'm going to get Magic, and he named some other players that left.
Yeah, but I mean,
Go get Magic. Magic's 60-some years.
even without that, I think he is claiming something that is not being like that's not happening. He's saying that I can just go get anybody that played that still may have eligibility left. One, most of those dudes that left early from Michigan State, Izzo tried to keep, and they wanted to get away from him. So I don't know what planet he lives on where he thinks Jaren Jackson wants to come play for his ass anymore.
Michigan. And I'm not saying they have to come back.
Again, they can't play.
Right.
They, that last G League elite team have Bastias and Ron Holland Jr. Now it might have been some, and a couple of the elite players are veterans in the NBA. So there would only be 2 or 3 players.
The only one that's relevant
to a team like Overtime Elite.
Right.
They have a two-tier system where you've got one tier that's headed to college and the other tier with the Thompson twins, they're headed to the pros. So it's not going to be a lot of players.
What about Bates? Could he go back?
Why? No. He played in the NBA. And even so, he went to college and then went to the process, like put himself through the draft process and blah, blah, blah. These guys who played Ignite did not play in college at all. And so did not even start their eligibility clock to even have some sort of issue. The only one that's even relevant to like Michigan is Isaiah Todd left Michigan early and ended up on Ignite. But that's because he didn't get drafted, not because he, forgo going to college in the first place. Again, I think it's Izzo complaining for honestly no reason. Like his team is good enough. I don't know why he's doing his usual we have bad team nonsense like he tends to do. They're fine. And again, he can talk about Jaren Jackson all he wants. If he had played Jaren Jackson more minutes in the game against Syracuse, we wouldn't have had this problem because he wouldn't be scrambling tough. I ain't won nothing in a minute. Tom is the reason he don't have dudes that want to stay super long. So I have zero sympathy for Tom Izzo in this discussion.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Jack, the G League Elite was made for players who didn't want to go to college.
Exactly.
And they could play that year before they went into the league.
Exactly. But now that kids can get paid, that there's no reason.
But if I were a guy that left early after 1 or 2 and didn't make it, I'd have to think about suing because of this rule to allow me to play based on that. What do you think about?
Nobody made you leave early. It's not the same situation at all.
And they're specifically targeting G League Elite and overseas leagues. So if you, like Caleb Houston.
Right.
You left Michigan because you couldn't get NIL money.
Right.
You went to the pros, signed a contract.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go back into the NCAA.
Yeah, you just weren't good enough. That's different. Yeah. But if you skipped college completely, went to the G League, which is basically on the level of one of these European pro leagues, you are no different than, say, a Luka Doncic or a Franz Wagner or Iggy Berdakis, who were playing against pros, playing against grown men as teenagers, being compensated, but you weren't in the college system at all. You come over, you play your time, however much time you think that is. In all of those guys' cases, it was 2 years, and then you go to the NBA. But if you already played in college, went to the league, they said you weren't good enough, you don't get to come back. You should have just stayed in college. Nobody made you go. Well, unless you play for Calipari and you're elite and he actually makes you go, or you play for Izzo and you don't want to waste your career any longer, you leave. So
you made a bad business decision.
Yeah, you made a bad business. It happens to the best of us. That is part of growing up and being an adult and learning how the world works is the world ain't fair. Sometimes you make bad decisions and you have, these are the consequences of my own actions.
See, Izzo made it sound so much different.
That's because he's a coach.
Of course.
Yeah, he's advocated for himself and his team and his players. I get it. He's just a liar. So I'm not about to sit up here and defend, Tom Izzo lying on a situation. Not lying on the kids, but lying on a situation.
I thought you liked Izzo.
I would punt Tom Izzo if given the opportunity.
You sound like Reggie. Reggie's always talking about punting a dog.
I don't like people who defend people accused of and or convicted of sexual assault. Oh yeah, I don't mess with him. I don't mess with Brady Hoke for the same reason, although slightly less extent But he didn't kick Brendan Gibbons and Taylor Lewan off the team. I don't like them either. So no, I don't like Izzo.
Got it. So what? I wonder what America. I think it's good for the kid, and I'm glad they did it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think the best.
Pass the room.
I think the best thing about it is this is the NCAA finally trying to do something like common sense and be ahead of an issue. Think we do have a specific cohort of kids who have been in the G League Ignite program for 2 or 3 years, but it has folded. They're not on an NBA radar. They don't want to go overseas. They don't want to play for whatever other G League team. If someone wants to give them a scholarship, and they can start their education and all that. I think that that's good and well, but I just don't think there's a large enough cohort of players in America. As for the international kids, I think it's fine. If you think you can get better at basketball by coming overseas and playing college basketball in America, and you think that gives you a better shot to make the NBA, I'm all for that. I think the NBA has done an excellent job of finding foreign players, no matter what league they're in or what their age range is. But if you think you'll get better exposure playing college ball, I'm all for it.
And you'll get more money.
Yeah.
Nowadays. So I think that this is for those players that were in that area of the G League Elite where they did not have the option to get paid in college legally. And they didn't make that much money in the G League Elite, didn't make the pros. You can go back to college.
It's one of the few player-friendly initiatives the NCAA wasn't forced or sued into adopting, which is great, even though, they're not about to exist in the next probably 18 to 24 months as an entity, but better late than never. The push for players' rights and player compensation has finally reached. Obviously, I do think that we have course corrected way too far in the other direction, and it's the wild, wild west. But that's the NCAA's fault for trying to look to Congress or the courts for help when they could have easily just said, yeah, let's compensate our labor as every other industry on the planet does. So again, not about to have a whole lot of sympathy for people who can't get out of their own way.
No. And it's more like the baseball draft. Once you're drafted, you can go to college. But once you step foot on that college, you can't go to the MLB for another year or two. So there may be 10 people overall that this rule affects with the G League.
Yeah, I mean, I think the G League is in a not necessarily transition. I mean, G League is going to be what it's always going to be, but I think that this is the NCAA trying to do right by a subset of players that were really only in the situation they're in because the NCAA was so against players being compensated for their labor.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be good. I see no problems with it if it's followed, but I still see possible lawsuits, people coming in and saying, hey, what's the difference? You guys have explained it, but I think that there may be some that say I didn't make it. I can go back and play in the college and make some money. I didn't get a chance to do it. I left because of that. I had to take care of my. Good morning. Oh, what am I saying? Good morning. I'm all messed up, ladies and gentlemen. It's evening, and it's the last segment of our show. And Dabo presents 107.5 HD2 Bullseye Sports on the Sports Rap Network. You can listen to us on the Sports Rap app. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the Sports Rap app. What are we talking about this time in the last segment, gentlemen? Our most intense segment of the hour. That's right. Come and listen to us because this is where we get down to the real nitty gritty. What are we talking about this time, John? Well, let's talk about the Pistons.
Pistons are playing right now. Pistons are playing the Jazz right now. But I think what we should take away most from the beginning of this NBA season is we've got a couple of tiers starting to form. We've got a tier of teams that are really trying, which seems to make up about 2/3 of the league. And then we've got a tier of teams who are either floundering or just aren't really seriously trying to play winning basketball this season. Pistons currently in 3rd place in the East. We've already got discontented stars around the league. We've got trade rumors swirling. We've got star players coming back from injury. Anthony Edwards is going to come back and make his return against the Knicks this evening. We've got a surprise first-place team in the East that Jimmy is just dying to talk about, Chicago Bulls. The Pistons are right there and playing good basketball. Look to add another win today or this evening. Jimmy, what are your thoughts on the Pistons in the East?
Well, they're 5-2 right now. And the Pistons have their start out slow. I think in 4 of their 5 wins, they've been down more than 10 points, and they come back to win.
Yeah, they've only won the first quarter one time in their season.
Wow.
They probably lost that game. But they're playing hard. They block a lot of shots.
They're athletic. They're young.
Yes.
They run. They don't get tired. They're strong. They're tall.
And with Tobias Harris getting hurt, they have started Isaiah Stewart at the 4 and Duran at the 5. And both, since the 2 games they've done that, both have had their career highs in points. Duran had 33 against Dallas, and Isaiah had 24 against Memphis Grizzlies.
I know we don't love talking about live sports as they're happening on the show. It ruins the suspension of disbelief. However, I do want to point out, to your point, Jimmy, Jalen Duran right now, 22 points, 17 rebounds with the fourth quarter still to go at home against the Jazz, has only missed 4 shots. So, yeah, whatever change in thought process he's had or recommitment, it's paying off immediately these past couple
like
games.
An all-star. Jackie's playing like an all-star.
Those are the type of performance he's going to put up this first half of the season. I would have to agree with you, Mark.
Cade is going to have a buddy.
Looking
at
like
the All-Star game. Now, do the Pistons regret not signing him to an extension before the season started?
They got to get this kid, keep this kid, and they still got time. No, I'd sign him during the season if he and get him. Get him right now.
But I'm sure if he keeps these numbers up, that extension is going to be a little bit more.
Exactly.
They rolled the dice and lost.
Yeah. If I were him, we're not talking till the season is over because he's got all the leverage at this point with the way he's playing, the way the team is constructed, and how essential he is to where the Pistons go going forward. I
Should
think
Tom Gores do a Jerry Jones and get a handshake without an agent?
Well, he by what? Although, unfortunately, Tom Gores' net worth is set to spike considerably in the upcoming time frame based on where he gets his income from, we'll say. So he might be fine with during reaching his potential, we'll say.
But don't they have a salary cap?
There is a salary cap, of course. There is the NBA, in fact, has a hard cap, but the Pistons are not luxury tax offenders, and they're certainly not repeat luxury tax offenders. So if he wants to go over the first apron and dip in the luxury tax territory, he's well within his means and rights to. It becomes onerous next year when he tries to become a repeat tax offender. Conceivably, they could push the chips in. I mean, there's still a roster spot open for Malik Beasley. So, Trajan Langdon is not done tinkering with his teams around the margins, let alone possible big moves as well.
Well, I hope, Malik Beasley, for some reason I root for that kid. I hope he makes it and he takes a roster spot with the Pistons. I thought nobody said he was a bad teammate, so I hope he comes back. You just mentioned something that I want.
We all do. And again, like Jack said, the more and more I hear, the more it sounds like he could have a suit coming because his name has been sullied with no evidence.
Yeah, I think I know this is kind of slightly off top of what we started with, but I do think it's really interesting how we have made it into the season. We're 8 or 9 games into the season for most teams now, and we're not hearing very much about the gambling scandal, nor are we hearing much about the Clippers and Aspire, or aspiration, whatever they were called, the money laundering front for Kawhi's contract. I think the NBA benefits the most from their games being all week and so much happening in the league every day that a lot of the bigger stories kind of get lost in talking about the game. Because like for the NFL, it's basically contained to one weekend, right? Even though the season basically, there's Thursday games and Monday games, you basically have a small window of when stuff happens and then you talk about it for the rest of the week, right? But for the NBA, it's literally changing every day. Like guys are getting injured, guys are scoring 50, guys doing, like Dylan Brooks is getting technicals from the bench, is now the first player with a negative infinite net rating because he was a -1 in 0 minutes played. There's just quirky stuff like that all happening every week. And I think the NBA is just hoping they can get to the All-Star break and then to the playoffs without having to really address the gambling or the Clippers. What do you guys think?
Interesting question off of that, Jack. Are the technicals he's getting going to count toward his 16?
They sure do. Yep, they count. If you get assessed it counts in your ledger, even if you were not active that day. Like I said, he's on the score sheet. Normally he would have been a DNP CD, but now he has a full line of no stats except for that -1 and that technical.
But to answer your question, I think the NBA would love to go to All-Star break with no more mention of that, because then you got the Olympics around that time. But I think our friends in D.C. will bring it up when they get a dry moment. And maybe now that they've lost a couple of elections, something might come down the pike this week.
Because the feds did indicate that this investigation remains open and ongoing, correct? This wasn't
Yes.
the end of it, right?
Yes.
I believe, we had the Gilbert Arenas arrest earlier this year. Gilbert indicates that those are separate cases. His argument, in fact, was his is less serious because there was no operation code name attached to his nonsense. He just got a regular run-of-the-mill arrest. But I don't know, man. This feels like it's a lot deeper than we have been led to believe. I think the poker stuff is going to get more like of the vets and our big names caught up. But I cannot believe Terry Rozier and Jonte Porter are the only two dudes actively gambling on their own performances at this point. That may not necessarily be fair, but that's how I feel.
I think that, as it goes further along, more and more bigger names will come out.
Yeah, I'm definitely at the point where I'm asking, is the other shoe about to drop? Are we about to see a current superstar involved in this? I think that's what the NBA is truly afraid of. If there's a name like I don't want to act like I'm expecting any of these guys or I'm disparaging, just simply giving examples. But if there's like an Anthony Edwards or a John Morant or a Zion Williamson involved, well, it can't be Zion because he don't play. If these guys, those level of guys, are shown to be in cahoots with this seedy element, I think the NBA is in for a world of trouble.
Yeah,
so
you've had rumors, but when there's an indictment, I take that seriously. And until there's an indictment, I'm not going to go with a lot of these rumors.
Well, yeah, I mean, we definitely have to be careful of that. I mean, we see it most explicitly with Malik. He literally has had his reputation destroyed. Now, he does have other financial issues. Let's not act like Malik Beasley has been completely had his name sullied for no reason. He do still owe people all that money. But there's like, you can owe people money and still not be a degenerate gambler who's betting on or against your team or your own performance. Like, those can be two completely separate issues, and probably look to be that way in this case.
Yes. Well, we've come across the fastest 2 hours in sports, as we've had riveting conversation and just an overall informational seminar here. So I'll be James Wardell signing out.
Good night, Detroit.
You're listening to Wardell, Walker, Barthwell, and our